overnight action report here at MarketStream.live. My name is Joseph Cusick from the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock. We're going to cover all the overnight action. We're going to the opening bell in Europe, and we'll talk about the pre-market here in the States. Well, it looks like overnight we had U.S. Treasuries selling off, and that has gotten the H2 reflation trade in resumption. We see a boost of the U.S. dollar right now. We're seeing global equities mostly across the board to the upside, and we see government bonds, the Japanese yen, and gold prices all going lower this morning and from the overnight session. Now, taking a look at Asia and the overnight session, now that they're closed, the Japanese Nikkei finished up the day by gaining 0.5%, climbing to levels that we have not seen all year. This is after the Bank of Japan made no changes to their monetary policy. The central bank did raise its economic assessments as was expected, and the yen retreated after that announcement about 0.6% against the U.S. dollar to around 117.88. EWJ went out at $50.55. The weekly options are pricing in a 1.5% move from now until the end of this week in the $50 ETF that tracks the Japanese stocks. We're also seeing that the monthly move is being priced in at about 3.2%. So for the next 31 days, you're going to see a range of $1.63. So it could be as high as 52 and it could be as low as 48.50. So we're going to watch this very closely, especially with monetary policy staying in place right now in Japan. But we'll watch that, see if that continues, especially if we start to see that inflation or growth starts to kick in or come into question. Now, taking a look at Hong Kong and the Hang Seng, it fell about 0.5%. It's amid broad-based weakness after the release of their November CPI. Consumer Price Index came up for November, up 1.2% year over year. You're seeing financials and property names struggle. HSBC, China Life, as well as Bank of China, being the most notable names, losing between 0.7% and 2%. Also seeing weakness in the Chinese Shanghai Composite, down about 0.5% as well. FXI, which tracks the large cap stocks in the composite, went out last night at 35.36. Right now, the weekly options are pricing in a 3% range for this FXI ETF that tracks the large cap stocks in China, as well as a 5.4% range, either up or down on FXI over the next 31 days. Also, EWH, which tracks Hong Kong stocks, has a range of around 4% over the next 31 days, either up or down. What's interesting here, folks, is that there are concerns about property names, both in China and in Hong Kong. There seems to be a little bit of concern that the market is just too hot and that there could be what we saw in 2008, 2009 here in the States. And so you're going to see some uncertainty revolved around that. That's why I bring these property names up, and that's why I'm watching these ETFs. Taking a look at India and the Sensex, it shed about 0.3%. Growth-sensitive names like Baha Auto, Tata Steel, Tata Motors, Hero Motor Corp, all losses between 1.5% and 2.2%. There was an interesting Wall Street Journal article that you may want to check out, detailed that Apple may be looking to move some of its production to India. That could be a slight boost to the Indian economy. We're going to watch that closely. And of course, you never know if there's going to be a tweet or two from the president-elect about that move or potential move. EPI is the ETF that tracks Indian stocks, went out last night at $20.34. The weekly options are pricing in a 2% move either up or down, and the monthly options, which are expiring in 31 days, are pricing in a 5% move either up or down, so a decent range in EPI for the next 31 days. Germany's DAX right now is trading up about 0.1% early in the session, with Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank in the lead. The two names are up nearly 2%, while other heavyweights like Merck, Volkswagen, and Adidas are all up between 0.6% and 1.3%. So you see banks, exporters, and retail names in the lead. EWG went out at $26. The weekly options are pricing in the potential range of around 1.5% for the next 3 days. And you have the monthly options pricing in the potential for a 3.1% either up or down range for the next 31 days in EWG. Now, UK's FTSE is higher by about 0.2%, with home builders and consumer names showing some relative strength this morning early in the session. We're seeing Barrett Developments, Taylor Wimpey, all up between 0.9% and 1.1%. You're also seeing Marks & Spencer, Unilever, as well as British American Tobacco and Carnival showing gains between 0.4% and 1.1%. Now, EWU, the ETF that tracks the FTSE stocks, went out last night at $30.85. The weekly options are pricing in the potential range of around 1.6% for the next 3 days, and the monthly options are pricing in the potential for a 2.8% range in EWU for the next 31 days. So decent range right now for the UK stock ETF. France's CAC climbed about 0.5% so far this session. It's helped financials. Credit Agricole, BNP Paribas, and Societe Generale, all the usual suspects showing basically gains between 1.1% and 1.7%. You are also seeing some boost in exporters like Michelin, Renault, and Peugeot, all up between 0.9% and 1.3%. EWQ, last night, the ETF went out at 24.24. That's the ETF that tracks French stocks. The monthly options are pricing in the potential of a 6.5% range, either up or down for EWQ over the next 31 days. There could be some opportunities in there, especially if we start to see that volatility rises in there. There could be some premium selling opportunity. We'll keep an eye on that. Finally, taking a look at Italy's MIB. Trading higher by about 0.5%, but there is some interesting activity there in the banking sector. Mediaset has spiked about 18.1%, and financials like UBI Banca, Banco Popular, and Unicredit are all up between 1.7% and 3%. There is still concerns on the recapitalization of these banks. There hasn't been any firm path on how that's going to occur, and there's actually a vote by the Senate on how they're actually going to recapitalize this. Are they going to issue some debt within Italy to basically get these banks recapitalized? There's going to be a close eye kept on that, because that's going to start setting the tone and also putting some pressure on the French elections as well as the German elections. We're already starting to see some volatility around that going into 2017. EWI is the ETF that tracks Italian stocks. Went out last night at 23.79. The weekly options are pricing in the potential for around a 2.2% move for the next 3 days, and the monthly options are pricing in a 4% potential range, either up or down for the next 31 days. Also, some notable news here in the U.S. before we get into the pre-market action. General Mills, ticker symbol GS, missed on their earnings, both on the top and bottom lines, and they lowered their organic sales guidance while reaffirming their earnings. We also saw that Darden Restaurants, which reported last night or this morning, DRI is the ticker symbol. They're higher after reporting what looks to be earnings per share as well as revenues in line with expectations, and they reaffirmed 2017 guidance. We're also seeing BlackBerry. BlackBerry is higher by about 3% this morning. They beat by 3 cents. Now they missed on revenues, but they raised their fiscal 17 earnings per share guidance above what consensus estimates were. So there's some interesting activity. We're going to follow that and more at 9:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Central on What's Hot on the Open. So join me then here at MarketStream.live. Have a great trading day.